Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you today with a message that is burning in my heart. A message for every woman who has ever doubted her worth, questioned her value, or been told she's not enough. Let me tell you the truth right now. You were created with purpose, with power, and with divine beauty. You don't have to earn your worth. It was given to you the moment you were born. And today, I want to give you 3 simple, powerful steps to live as the confident woman you were always meant to be. True confidence begins by knowing who you are at your core. This is not surface-level knowledge. It's not about your name, your job title, your appearance, or the roles you play in the world. Knowing who you are goes much deeper. It means being anchored in a truth that doesn't shift with opinions, circumstances, or emotions. The world constantly tries to shape your identity through media, expectations, comparisons, and even wounds from the past. But none of those things define your worth. You must understand that your value is not earned. It's intrinsic. You were created with worth already inside you. Before you achieved anything, before you looked a certain way, before anyone approved of you, you were already enough. That truth cannot be taken away, though life and lies will try to convince you otherwise. Society will say you need to be thinner, louder, softer, smarter, sexier, quieter, faster. Always something different. And if you keep chasing that ever-changing image, your confidence will crumble the moment the trend shifts. But when you know who you are, truly, deeply, unshakably, something changes. You stop looking for affirmation in the wrong places. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable, because you understand that you were not made to fit in. You were made to stand out in exactly the way you were designed. Confidence flows from this knowing, not arrogance, not pride, but a still, steady assurance that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it. And when you're rooted in your true identity, failure doesn't destroy you, because you know that a setback is not a sentence. Rejection doesn't define you, because it doesn't touch the core of your being. Success doesn't inflate you either, because your confidence doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. You become stable, grounded, and secure, not because everything around you is perfect, but because the foundation inside you is firm. This kind of self-knowledge is not easy to find in a noisy world. It requires silence. It requires reflection. Sometimes it even requires unlearning what you were taught about yourself. You may have to peel back layers of shame, fear, insecurity, and the voices of others. But it is worth it, because at the center of it all, there is a truth about who you are that no one can erase. And when you live from that place, you don't have to chase confidence anymore. It begins to live in you. There will come times in every woman's life when strength seems to disappear, when the weight of the world feels too heavy, when the demands of life pull from every direction, when even getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. These moments are not signs of weakness. They are reminders of your humanity. They are opportunities to remember that true strength, real lasting strength, doesn't come only from within you. It comes from a source that is far greater, far deeper, and far more faithful than your own efforts or emotions. There is a strength that doesn't dry up when you're tired. It doesn't fade when you're scared. It doesn't abandon you when you're broken. This strength is not found in trying harder or pretending to have it all together. It is found when you let go of the pressure to carry everything on your own shoulders and reach for something eternal. You were never meant to do life alone. You were never meant to carry pain, pressure, and expectation without help. The confidence that lasts doesn't come from you constantly striving. It comes from surrender. It comes from realizing that you have access to a strength that never runs out. Many women are told they have to be strong all the time. Strong for their families, strong for their work, strong for their children, strong for everyone. But the truth is, strength doesn't mean never feeling weak. It doesn't mean being perfect or always knowing what to do. Real strength is knowing where to run when you feel empty. Real confidence comes when you say, I may not have all the answers, but I know where my help comes from. That kind of strength is not about how loud you speak, how hard you fight, or how perfect you look. It's about the quiet, unshakable knowing that when everything else falls away, you are not alone. And when that strength flows through you, it changes the way you live. You no longer need to pretend or perform. You can walk into chaos with peace. You can face uncertainty with courage. You can love without fear of losing. Because your strength is not limited to what you can do. It is tied to something infinite. That's when confidence becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a posture, a presence, a stillness that follows you everywhere you go. You stop trying to control every outcome. You stop being afraid of failure. You stop worrying about what people think. Because your stability doesn't come from applause. It comes from being held by something that cannot be shaken. This is not wishful thinking. It is real. It is available. And when you stand in that strength, you begin to rise. Not because everything is easy, but because you know you are not rising alone. When you walk through fire and don't get burned, when you stand in storms and still have peace, when you lose everything and still hold your head high, that's when people see it. They see something unexplainable, something powerful. That is confidence rooted in strength that is greater than you, not a performance, not a mask, but a fire inside you that cannot be put out. Confidence is not something that waits for the perfect moment to arrive. It does not come only after every doubt is gone or every fear is conquered. Confidence grows when you decide to move forward, even when you feel unsure. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about trusting that you were made with a purpose and that your steps matter. When you begin to live with purpose, confidence follows. Purpose is the fuel that ignites boldness. When you know why you're here, what you stand for, and who you want to become, your life starts to shift. You stop drifting. You stop hesitating. You stop letting fear decide for you. You were not created to live small, hidden, or silent. There is something within you that the world needs. There is a light in your spirit, a voice in your soul, and a power in your presence that was meant to be seen and heard. But for too long, too many women have been taught to shrink themselves, to play it safe, to second-guess their ideas, to hold back their strength so others feel more comfortable. But living in fear of judgment is not humility. It's a slow death of your true self. And living without purpose is what makes people feel lost, anxious, and afraid. When you have no sense of meaning, your confidence will always be shaky because it has no foundation. You will depend on validation, comparison, and temporary wins to feel good. But the moment those disappear, so does your strength. Living with purpose anchors your life. It means you're not just surviving or going through the motions. You are awake, intentional, and moving in a direction that matters. You start to walk differently. You speak with conviction. You stop asking, do they approve of me? And start asking, is this aligned with who I'm called to be? Purpose makes your yes more powerful and your no more clear. It teaches you that not every door is meant for you, and that rejection is often redirection. Confidence becomes a byproduct of clarity. This boldness isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's not about dominating a room or impressing others. It's the quiet assurance that says, I know why I'm here, and I don't need permission to take up space. You begin to trust your instincts. You stop waiting for someone to tell you you're enough because you already know it. You start creating, building, speaking, and leading, not because you're the best, but because you're being faithful to what's been placed inside you. A woman with purpose cannot be easily shaken. She may face setbacks, but she won't stop. She may be doubted, but she'll keep going. She may walk through loneliness, criticism, and resistance, but her confidence stays intact because she's not chasing applause, she's following a calling. She's not perfect, but she's present. She's not fearless, but she's focused. And that focus gives her a power that distractions can't destroy. Every woman was born with a purpose. It may not look like someone else's, and that's the point. You were not created to copy, you were created to contribute. And when you embrace that, confidence will no longer be a mask you wear, it will become a light you carry. A light that leads others. A light that breaks through darkness. A light that reminds the world I am here for a reason, and I refuse to live hidden. Vulnerability is often misunderstood in today's world. Many are taught that showing weakness is dangerous, that expressing emotion is a sign of instability, and that asking for help makes you less capable. But this could not be further from the truth. Vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is a deeper kind of strength. It takes courage to be real. It takes confidence to let people see you as you are, without the mask, without the armor, without the performance. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're not showing that you are weak. You are proving that you are strong enough to stand in truth. Confidence is not about pretending to have it all together. It is not about hiding your pain or bottling up your fear. That's performance, not power. Real confidence says, I don't need to be perfect to be worthy. I can be growing, I can be healing, I can be learning, and I am still valuable. A woman who can admit when she's hurting, who can say, I'm struggling, without shame, is a woman who knows her value doesn't depend on appearing flawless. That kind of honesty is rare, but it is powerful. It creates space for others to breathe. It gives permission for authenticity, and it builds a life rooted in truth rather than illusion. There is freedom in vulnerability. When you stop trying to be everything for everyone, you begin to reclaim your voice. You are no longer living to meet expectations, you are living from the inside out. You begin to draw close to people who truly see you, rather than those who only approve of your image. You build relationships that are real, based on truth and trust. And in this space, confidence grows, not from being praised, but from being known, from knowing yourself, from being honest about what you feel, what you need, what you believe, and who you are. And yes, vulnerability can feel risky. There will be times when it's misunderstood, times when people misuse your honesty or fail to respond with compassion. But even then, vulnerability teaches you something essential. Your courage is not defined by how others respond. It is defined by your willingness to be real anyway. And that kind of bravery can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. It is grown in the deep places where your soul dares to show up without a script. Vulnerability opens the door to healing. It allows the pain that has been hidden for years to finally come into the light. It gives your heart a voice. It tells the truth about where you've been, and then empowers you to decide where you're going. It says, I've been broken, but I'm not staying broken. It says, I've been afraid, but I'm still moving forward. This is not weakness. This is not fragility. This is fire. And here's the paradox: the more you embrace your vulnerability, the more unstoppable you become. Because when you no longer fear being seen for who you are, no one can shame you into silence. When you've faced your own darkness and chosen to step into the light, no insult, no criticism, no rejection can break you. Confidence rooted in vulnerability is a quiet, steady flame. It doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to prove. It simply burns, authentically, fiercely, and without apology. Purpose is not just a grand idea or an abstract dream. It is the heartbeat of a confident life. It is the steady compass that gives direction when everything else feels uncertain. When a woman understands that she was made for more than just going through the motions, something powerful happens inside her. She begins to rise, not in arrogance, but in quiet determination. She stops chasing approval and starts chasing meaning. She no longer asks, do they like me? But instead asks, am I being faithful to what I was made to do? That shift changes everything. Without purpose, even success feels empty. You can have the job, the home, the applause, the likes, but still feel like something is missing. That's because confidence without purpose is fragile. It depends on circumstances and prays to stay alive. But when confidence is rooted in purpose, it becomes sustainable. It grows deeper with time. It doesn't rely on mood or trend. It's anchored in mission. It's not based on how things look on the outside, but on the fire that burns within. A fire that says, I am here to make a difference. I am here to build, to uplift, to serve, to shine. I'm not just living, I'm living on purpose. And living on purpose doesn't mean you have to be on a stage, write a book, or lead a movement. Purpose is not always loud. Sometimes purpose is in the way you love your family, how you show up for a hurting friend, how you use your words to heal instead of harm. Sometimes purpose is found in the very places the world overlooks. It's not always glamorous, but it's always significant. And when you begin to see that your life has meaning, real, God-given meaning, you stop settling. You stop shrinking to fit into roles that don't honor who you are. You stop trying to be someone else and start walking boldly in your own shoes. With purpose comes clarity. Clarity gives you the power to say no to distractions, to step away from toxic environments, and to pursue what truly matters. That kind of focus breeds confidence, not because everything is easy, but because you know it's right. It's amazing how strong you feel when you know you're walking the right path, even if it's hard. You might be tired, you might be stretched, but you're fulfilled. Because deep down you know this matters. Purpose also brings resilience. When you know you were made for something greater, you don't give up easily. You bounce back faster. You recover with more grace. You stand back up not because you feel strong, but because you know the work is not done. Women who live on purpose understand that failure is not final. Rejection is not the end. Delays are not denials. They keep going, not because it's easy, but because they are anchored in something bigger than themselves. And most of all, purpose empowers you to lift others. When you're living your purpose, you stop competing and start inspiring. You begin to recognize the value in others because you're no longer threatened by their success. Confidence becomes a tool for connection, not comparison. It allows you to say, I see you, I celebrate you, and I'm not afraid to shine, even while you shine too. That is the power of a purpose-driven woman. She's not waiting to be chosen. She knows she's already called. She's not waiting for perfection. She's moving with intention. And the world cannot ignore that kind of woman. There is a quiet strength and humility that many people overlook. In a world obsessed with status, image, and performance, it's easy to think that confidence must be loud, attention-seeking, or dominant. But real confidence doesn't need to shout. It doesn't demand the spotlight. It doesn't rely on recognition to feel valuable. True confidence walks hand in hand with humility, and together they create a woman who is both powerful and grounded. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself rightly. It means you know your value, but you don't need to prove it constantly. You are secure enough in who you are that you can celebrate others without envy, admit mistakes without shame, and learn without defensiveness. You understand that you are not better than others, but you are not less than them either. You walk with the quiet assurance that your worth is not something to be earned, performed for, or competed over. It simply is. A confident woman with humility is a force. She enters a room with presence, not pride. She doesn't need to dominate conversations or flaunt achievements, because she knows her value is not in titles or applause. Her confidence is not tied to ego, but to identity. She listens before she speaks. She leads with grace. She corrects with kindness. She serves without losing herself. And because she's not striving to impress, she becomes a safe place for others to be real. Humility also allows confidence to keep growing. When you're humble, you're teachable. You recognize that you don't know everything, and that's okay. You welcome wisdom, correction, and growth. This mindset doesn't weaken your confidence, it strengthens it. Because confidence rooted in truth doesn't fear growth, it embraces it. It's not threatened by the success of others, it's inspired by it. It doesn't cling to the need to be right, it chooses to be better. That's a different kind of power, a deeper kind. And it's not just about how you treat others, it's about how you treat yourself. Humility helps you extend grace to yourself. It says, I don't have to be perfect to be worthy. It silences the inner critic and replaces shame with gentleness. You begin to hold yourself to a standard of growth, not guilt. You become patient with your own journey, knowing that confidence is not a destination, it's a practice. A woman who walks in this way becomes a steady light to those around her. Confidence without humility can become arrogance, but confidence with humility becomes influence. It doesn't push people away, it draws them in. It creates connection, trust, and impact. The most magnetic kind of woman is not the one constantly trying to be impressive. It's the one who is quietly, authentically herself, not looking down on others and not looking up to everyone either. just walking steadily in her lane, focused on her purpose, open to growth, willing to serve, and not afraid to shine. In this world, that kind of woman stands out. She doesn't need to scream to be heard. Her life speaks for itself. Her humility deepens her confidence, and her confidence strengthens her humility. Together, they build a foundation so solid, no storm can shake it. So let me leave you with this: being a confident woman isn't about having it all together, or never feeling afraid, or standing in perfection. It's about choosing every single day to rise with purpose, to walk in truth, to lean into strength greater than your own, and to stand firm in the quiet, knowing that you were made for more. It's about embracing your vulnerability without shame, living your purpose without apology, and wearing humility like a crown, not to be noticed, but to make a difference. The world doesn't need more perfect women. It needs more real ones. Women who are not afraid to be seen as they are. Women who lead with love, walk with wisdom, speak with courage, and move through life not as imposters, but as daughters of purpose, carriers of light, and builders of change. So step forward, not when you feel ready, but because it is time. You don't need to ask for permission to be who you already are. Stand tall, speak truth, live bold, because the world is waiting for the woman you were born to be.